Hi everyone. We're going to talk a little bit about how to use AI, in particular ChatGPT, to do some functions that might help you do your work a little bit faster as a teacher. So let's talk a little bit about what AI is. So artificial intelligence, the definition here is the ability of machines and computer programs to perform tasks that require human-like intelligence. So just so we don't assume AI is just new, what's come out with OpenAI and ChatGPT and some of these newer systems that are doing chatbots. You've been using AI for quite a long time. For example, Alexa and Siri. We all know those as virtual assistants, but even some of the platforms that you use for e-commerce and your bank and some of those different AI systems are already ubiquitous in our lives. So ChatGPT is the most available one right now, came out of OpenAI, and I thought I'd let ChatGPT go ahead and tell you what it is. We can play this small video. So you can see here, it's just a system, and you can see in the bar, I'm just asking it to give a simple description of basically what it is. So write a simple description of what ChatGPT does, and then you just hit enter, and it gives you a description of what it is. So as you can see here, it's a large language model, etc., etc., etc. For me, it was not simple enough. I wanted a more simple description, so I just ask it right there. It can fix it, not like the internet or a Google search. You can just ask it to carry on with the same conversation. So I say, please, you don't need to say please, of course, but please put it in more simple English terminology. So then you get a much more simple definition, which you can read here. So ChatGPT is a computer-like program that can talk to you using words like human. You can also ask questions or tell it something, and it will try to give you a good answer or response. It works by using a lot of information it learned from reading and studying many texts and documents. It keeps getting better and smarter as it learns from more information. So, unlike the internet, you can just continue to have a conversation with it and ask it further questions about its previous answer. So this can seem not relevant to us. So we want to talk about why we're talking about this. We're in education. So the quote here is, teachers will not be replaced by technology, but teachers who cannot use the technology will be replaced. So really, we want to make sure that everybody understands what's available and can use some of these tools to help them, because in the future, we don't want to fall behind in our skill sets, and make sure that everybody's up to speed. So most importantly, why we're talking about it is because it can save you time and help generate ideas. So there's a lot of ways you can use that, and we'll talk about those in a minute in the DLS classroom even. It's going to get better over time, even in other languages. So if your language is not very good right now, it probably will become better over the coming years. And it will probably be integrated into many applications like LMSs in the future. So we anticipate some different tools we'll have to integrate into our current technology tools. And also, your students are going to use it. So that's the main thing, is probably you're going to have to control your students' use and make sure, they don't abuse it, but use it to help themselves as well, because they can search for certain things, ask it to give them grammar explanations, and maybe it's, right or wrong, and that's up to the teachers to test. But your students will also be using it for work. So you want to make sure that they're using it in the right way and know how to ask the right questions in the case they do use it when they deploy away from the classroom. So why would we use AI or ChatGPT more specifically? And really, it's because it's a better tool. So instead of Googling something, we can have a conversation and refine the query that we're giving it. So, if a contractor shows up to your house, which would you prefer, this manual screwdriver or this drill? Of course, you'd prefer the drill. So in the end, we want to make sure that we're using the best tools that are available to us and to you, and to your students to ensure that we're giving them the best quality that's out there. So we really shouldn't talk about AI without giving some of the ethical implications and some of the problems with using the tool, just so you're aware. It is often wrong, so really quality control and looking at the information and cross-checking the information. You don't want to rely on everything that ChatGPT says. And you, again, that's the benefit of keep asking the questions to make sure that you're getting the right answer, and you can cross-check, and you can even ask it for where it's getting its information from. Also, it has the same biases that humans do. It learned from us, and therefore it has the same biases. So if there is something inherently in the language that it uses more often, it's gonna behave just like a human does. And it should be a tool. It does not replace human creativity. So please, you can use it to help your creativity, but it certainly is not going to replace that. And it doesn't really understand nuance, especially cultural. So a lot of the things will be very flat and not culturally appropriate or culturally insensitive. You never know. So you really need to dig into that and use your judgment for those kinds of things. So let's talk about in general what sort of people, and when I say people, you know, what I gather from companies, etc., how they've been using it. And these are not necessarily new, but with ChatGPT, it's more available to more people. It's pretty good at factual questions, though you do need to cross-check the facts. It can provide recommendations, so you could ask it to give you some recommendations of what to do in New York City for a day. And then you can refine after that. It does do a pretty good job at writing content like articles, factual articles, blogs. You can ask it to do those things. Again, making sure that you quality control that. It also does do translation, a decent job depending on the language. The bigger languages, French, Spanish, Russian, Chinese, so far it seems to be pretty adept. Some of the smaller languages, not so much. And also people use it as like a personal assistant to do some small tasks here and there. And again, it does do a pretty good job of writing, especially in English. So if you're a second language speaker, if English is your second language, third language, or fourth language, it also gives you good, clean English that you can adapt and edit yourself. So we shared these resources for teachers. Below this presentation, you'll see a link to the Padlet that we have. In there, we have some ways and example prompts that you can use ChatGPT. And one suggestion is progress reports. You can put in key terms that you wanted to use to evaluate your students, and then it can give you a clean paragraph in English, and then you can fix it from there. It does a pretty good job at test questions and comprehension questions. So if you have reading passages, you can plop them in there and ask it to write some questions. Of course, it needs to be edited, but it gets you started. It does lesson planning. I haven't been too impressed with some of the lesson plans, but again, it gives you a starting point and maybe a few ideas that you hadn't thought of. You can ask it for tasks, topics, activities, exercises. These are all good things that you can use it for. And finally, grammar explanations. Again, they really need to be quality controlled, but you can fine tune them pretty nicely. And you can give it to your student who can understand it in English. And finally, some materials development, so things like creating conversations or even writing little articles. You can use your judgment of whether it's producing the right one, but you can tweak it as you go through the queries to refine it.